Hey everyone, welcome to the first game week edition of the year for the Mean Green Gridiron podcast, South Alabama week. I'm joined by Mr. Zesty Hunky Carter once again.
Oh,
I'm in.
one of my two favorite words.
You excited? Excited for game week?
Very much so. I think I said earlier in the group chat that this would be somebody. Well, we were talking just about the importance of winning some big road games this year, and I think someone commented that we haven't beat a team above 500 on the road since 2019, except for Western Kentucky 2 years ago. We have one 500 team that we've beaten on the road. So obviously, South Alabama is technically 500 right now, sitting at 0-0. But even still, we talked about the schedule on the last podcast, and there's a bunch of good road games this year, but South Alabama is one that, like, this is a team that obviously they won 7 games last year. They've got some talent on the offensive side we'll talk about tonight, but this is a team that we're capable of beating. I don't think it's unrealistic to say that we can expect to win this game. We'll talk about why, but I think this is a game that we should be excited for.
Yeah.
So yeah, obviously I'm excited because it's game one, but it's a game that I believe we can win. So
Yeah, there was something you were saying last episode, where I was kind of getting like a little bit like overhyping them. Like, oh yeah, like they're a really good offense and they had good defense, and you're kind of like, well, they were like the 6th place team in the Sun Belt also, or whatever they finished. So they do have you kind of go through cycles, especially with the first game. It's kind of like the NFL or NBA draft where like you beat up the same prospects for so long that like by the end of the draft you just like you've gone over all their strengths and their weaknesses like ad nauseum. So you're kind of just like beat on evaluating. It's kind of the same thing with week one opponent, because like we've looked at South Alabama because they've been next on the schedule for 9 months or whatever. We've kind of beat them up to death, at least people like me and you who are thinking about this game weeks and months out. But yeah, like you said, at the end of the day, this is a game that we should win. This game, it keeps giving me a lot of 2022 opening game against UTEP vibes, where it's like it's the same thing. It's like an opponent where it's a beatable opponent. It's on the road, but it's also not a slouch either. Not a game that you expect the other team to roll over. But yeah, something that along with kind of the road games thing, the formula for making a bowl or having a bowl eligibility season for North Texas is picking up at least 2 road wins. You look at all of our bowl teams in recent years, being able to get a couple wins on the road. If you go 1-5 on the road, you're really putting yourself in a hole, and you pretty much have to be just about perfect at home. Getting that second road win getting 2 road wins is going to be extremely crucial to the success of this team this season. And so this is a great opportunity right off the bat to start off 1-0. And yeah, that would go a long way, especially because you look at again to that point, like there are winnable road games. The one at the very end of the season, Temple, is one that stands out. FAU, you think you're gonna have a good shot there. We'll see about UTSA, but this one does stand out as probably the one of the better shots at picking up a road win this year. So I think this could go a long way for the current team. But we got some depth charts this week. We got the North Texas depth chart as well as the South Alabama depth chart. So going over our guys first. What kind of stood out to you looking through that first 2 deep, where you could actually see names on paper at positions?
So I noticed they talked about at the presser today. Gabe Blair's missing. He's going through some injury protocol. We're missing one other lineman, correct?
I think it's just him.
Is it just Gabe Blair?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's going to be a noticeable miss of some tenure on that offensive line. Again, one name I talked about in the offseason pod that I really am excited to see kind of move up on the depth chart is DT Sheffield, that transfer. Him slotting in at the Y, I think, is going to be like kind of one of those impact positions this game. Coach Morris talked today about like wanting to get those receivers involved early. Obviously, it's exciting to have like a guy like a Kaika Ragsdale back where you're going to be able to establish some sort of running game. Again, not to dismiss South Alabama's rush defense, but like this is a program where we expect to be able to establish some sort of running game every time we take the field. And Ragsdale's been here for a while, so that's the thing that I'm most excited about is seeing DT Sheffield kind of right at the top of that depth chart. I think he's going to be a player that hopefully makes some sort of big impact in this game. Not really surprising that Chandler Morris is the starting quarterback, but it was surprising that Drew Mestamaker is a guy we've talked about kind of all off season. He's slotting in as one of the backups and a guy that could see action pending some injury this year. I know the coaches are very high on him. I've seen some fans talk really high on him. But as far as the offense goes, I mean, there's not really anything that surprising, just some guys that we're going to be missing due to injury. I got to go back and look. We talked pre-show about notes. There was one guy I remembered. I was like, I know Gabe Blair's out, and then we're missing somebody else, and I did not write down who it is. But
was it Zach Evans, the running back?
Yes. Yeah. Zach Evans. That's one of the notable omissions on our depth chart right now. So we're going to see a lot of playing time from Jawan Price. I don't know how to pronounce his name. I'm probably going to say it wrong. Demaja Harris. Demaja.
Yeah.
I probably am saying that wrong. I apologize. Those two guys will get some good playing times and again some good playing time, and those guys are both transfers. So, we talked about it last time. Just there's so much transfer heavy talent coming into this program this year. Obviously, and a lot of new faces. So, as far as the offense goes, I will say DT Sheffield is just my depth chart piece of note where I'm like, yeah, that guy's starting and he's going to be a big piece of the offense hopefully on Saturday. So looking forward to seeing some DT Sheffield action. That's my pick for the depth chart surprise of the week, I guess.
Yeah, I think he's going to be very exciting. And one thing that stood out to me is that last year Blair Conwright was in that Y spot behind I think Rod Burns.
Mm-hmm.
And so they moved Conwright from that inside receiver Y position to an outside receiver position. So that tells me that, one kind of similar to how you see it with offensive line sometimes, like get your best guys on the field. It seems like pretty apparent that they felt like Sheffield was one of their best guys and felt like Conwright was as well. And that maybe if they would, with a different group of receivers, maybe they'd both be inside receivers in a different,
probably, especially if we had some more height, I think.
Yeah, exactly. But again, just getting your best guys out on the field. I thought it was interesting that Eric Morris did mention that Conwright played outside at TCU, so it's not foreign to him. And then obviously Chandler Morris is his quarterback there, so there's there's familiarity. It should be a pretty smooth transition. You don't tend to see it a ton in air raid offenses where guys move inside and outside, but I think more so we've seen Morris is a little bit more is a little bit more likely to do that than like a Graham Harrell, for example, back when we the last time we really had a true air raid. But yeah, a lot more size in this offensive line, a lot more height, I think, than we've ever had. I was talking also to the guys in the group chat about how I think we have 9 offensive linemen on this roster who are 6'5" or taller. And the last Luttrell team only had three guys 6'5" or taller.
Mm-hmm.
So you're seeing a lot more size on the offensive line, especially height-wise, length-wise. So that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. I mean, even you look at the last two offensive lines, the starting right tackle has been 6'1" Jet Duncan, and that was just out of necessity. Now he's we talked about last time. Now he's at a lot more favorable position for him at center. And you've got actual tackle bodies at tackle now, not just
and Landon Peterson, who's like I think he's like 6'6", 300 or something.
Yeah. So you got a lot of size.
Peterson's at guard, but yes, still.
Right. Yeah. Which I mean it's been a struggle for North Texas to find good quality 6'6" tackles, let alone a 6'6" guard. So that seems to be a pretty good indication that recruiting's paid off there. Got to see it on the field, of course, but liking that so far. Yeah, Oscar Hammond at tight end. That was it. It's kind of crazy what a foregone conclusion he's been since he got here. Everyone's penciled him in and hasn't thought twice about it. But he's a guy coming from the D2 level. It seems like he's done everything right along the way, and that's another guy excited to see. But yeah, big one obviously is Chandler Morris. We're gonna finally see him out on the field. Definitely excited about that. I thought it was funny that Morris said if they had to go to a backup, he said he might play eeny, meeny, miny, mo between McCollum and Mestamaker. So
right, yeah,
not the best vote of confidence, but
which we haven't had a true freshman get serious reps at quarterback since Mason Fine. I don't think.
Yeah,
so,
no.
I don't think Jason Bean. I don't think played as a freshman. Did he?
Maybe. I remember him playing as a redshirt freshman.
Not a true freshman, though.
Yeah. I don't think he played as a true freshman. Oh, no. He played in the bowl game that year. But that was it.
Yeah, that's right.
And Casey Martin did, too. And they're both true freshmen.
Yeah. We don't need to talk about that game.
Yeah.
There's a reason I don't remember much from Utah State. But yeah.
Yep, exactly. But so yeah, Chandler Morris will be on the field wearing a mean green football jersey. That'll be fun. But yeah, I think just like a lot of defenses, it sounds like South Alabama is going to be kind of a 3-man front. So it'll be interesting to see, like you said, if they kind of lean on the run early on to kind of try to soften up the defense. I know South Alabama has some playmakers in the secondary coming back who were key guys on the defense last year. Voisin, the safety, was one of their top secondary guy, had 4 picks last year. And then Fletcher, their cornerback, I think he's listed at 6'3". Mm-hmm. So it'll be a fun. I think that'll be a fun matchup of they've got that kind of 3-man, that odd front defensively, but they have one of those defenses where you look and every position is like some random name. Like I look at their depth chart, they have a position called Bandit, Husky, Sting, Wolf, Rover. That's so yeah. It's not your DEDTLB FSCB type nomenclature. So that tells me that we're going to see kind of guys all over the field and all over the place. So that should be a good opportunity, I think, for Ragsdale and Price to kind of set the tone early on. And then defensively, I guess, what were your thoughts about the depth chart there? It seemed like a lot of familiar names, but then also, good sprinkle of new guys as well.
Yeah, one guy I was expecting to see a little bit higher was JJ John Lewis, however you say his last name. Seeing him kind of lower, I think he's second or third string, was just a little bit of a surprise to me. So, like I said, we talked about this last time. There's a lot of kind of senior leadership on this defense that we're going to have to rely on. So seeing that a lot in the first string was not particularly surprising. Not that there's anything that really would have shaken that up, but again, seeing guys like Jalen Smith, Jordan Brown, Roderick Brown, just guys kind of everywhere that are upperclassmen. And I think one thing I've noted both with the depth chart and with Coach Morris talking this fall, there seems to be like a smart sense of urgency to fix this defense. But when I say smart, I mean they're noting that a lot of these guys, like today, Ethan Weslowski, coach was talking about how last year he just kind of got, thrown to the wolves. But the coaching staff is like very impressed with how he's been able to adapt at his position. And, guys getting reps is important. Obviously you'd rather not have players from the worst defense in college football, but you got to build with these guys, and some of these guys coming in, obviously the transfers helps, but you need guys like Ethan Weslowski to step up. So I'm glad that he's keeping a starting spot in the linebacking core. you need guys like Rich Tejada to play to the way you expect them to. So seeing a lot of our transfer guys kind of in the second and third string roles, Xavion Bryce is backing up Brian Nelson. Breland Charles is backing up Fadafehi. I can't say these names, man. I always I write them down and then I forget I can't say them. Valea, I assume. If
Yeah,
I don't,
Valea.
I don't think
you got to have more confidence, man. I think you're closer than you realize.
Okay,
just
good.
Let it fly.
Well, I if any players listen to this, I do apologize. I am trying my best with names. Terrell Dawkins, again, another second string transfer. So there's a lot of guys that I maybe would have expected. BJ Allen, another one that probably, if you're a coach that is in panic mode and just trying to shake things up as much as possible, I think it kind of notes that there's a little bit more confidence that a lot of these guys that are returning from last year, Jalen Smith, again, Rich Tejada, Rod Brown, a lot of these guys can, especially with more reps too, just maybe help anchor some things. And obviously there's a couple new faces shifting, and Jaden Hill's going to be a starter. Jake Shipley, who is a guy that the coaches, again, keep talking about and seem to be very high on. David Sproles, we talked about him a couple weeks ago. There are some transfer faces in here, so I think that's a positive. But I think it speaks volumes to the confidence that the coaches have in what they're building here. So I guess it's more not really like a reassurance that we're not going to go from dead last to top 50 in total defense. This is still going to be probably a bottom third of FBS defense this year. But even if you can get it's like we've been talking about all of season, if you can get this defense into the 90s or the 80s in total yards allowed, you're talking about an extra 3 to 4 wins. So I think that would be my main takeaway from the depth chart is just a lot of the transfer guys that came in that I maybe would have expected to kind of run with the first team are not. So, obviously, they're going to get rotation and they're going to get reps, but I think we'll just have to kind of wait and see on Saturday how some of these returning guys end up playing. So,
yeah, I mean, it is kind of crazy to think that as bad as we were defensively last year, we were still, that Hail Mary against Memphis away from being a bowl team. So, I mean, if you don't allow that Hail Mary. I don't even know if you call it Hail Mary. It was just kind of just one guy getting beat. But if you don't allow that pass, you're probably still the worst defense in the country, but you're in a bowl game. So that shows to your point. Like if you can get in the 90s, that could be like an 8-win team.
Or giving up 45 points to a 4-8 FAU team.
Right.
That didn't help either. I did not want to relive that Memphis game tonight. Oh.
I think I don't know that one is just one. That game was it got out of hand. It felt like, and then it felt like a fake comeback until it was a real one. And so that was a pleasant watch for me until the very end. Where it was okay, we're gonna lose this one, but then the comeback happened, and only to come back short at the end. But again, that just shows how good I think the offense is going to be under Morris. I think probably Eric Morris, as long as he's here. I think the offense is always going to be good as long as he's here. Mm-hmm. If you can just get that defense in just a respectable range, then I think you're going to be in pretty good shape. So again, I agree with you. The guys you have coming back, you even though it wasn't a great defense, you still feel like having returning guys should still help you. Who's it? Javen Anderson, I thought, was one that was he played pretty well as a true freshman last year, I thought. And he's kind of been the odd man out, I think, in the safety group, which, feels to me like it goes to show how improved the group is, even with Ashim Young out. I thought Javen Anderson looked like a guy who was going to be okay, playing kind of starting already as a true freshman. I thought sophomore year, he's going to be a lock as a starter position. And the other guys have played well. So I think that's, again, that makes you feel good about the depth there. I think Jaden Hill, right now, he's listed at the starter at boundary safety, but it sounds like they're mixing him in at the star. And then Hill's backup is BJ Allen, who sounds like they also feel very highly about. So you could easily see Hill maybe take over that start position once he gets a little bit more acclimated there, and then have BJ Allen be the starter at boundary safety.
Sure.
It sounds like they're going to kind of try a few different rotations, a few different configurations of those guys early on, and then kind of see what works. So yeah, definitely good to have options there. I thought Miles, shout out to Miles. He asked a good question today. He asked, with some of these, a good amount of true freshmen on this two deep. He asked, are these guys, is the plan to kind of have them maybe play a little bit early on and then try and preserve the red shirt? And Coach Morris said, no, like if they're on the two deep right now, then they're going to be pretty much guys every week, in the mix to play. You got, Baron Tipton at receiver. The name that keeps coming up is Wyatt Young, backing up Landon Sides. Braden Nelson at left guard. Zaylen Scott at defensive end. You've got, the point is you've got a handful of guys who are already on the two deep in week one. So that kind of goes to show, I think, that recruiting class that we thought was solid has had some early risers. So sure. Yeah, that'll be fun to watch. But talking about the defense going against South Alabama, they're going to go against the South Alabama team that switches out their quarterback. They lost their top rusher, their top receiver, but they do still return some guys. Their second and third leading rushers are back. They're kind of listed as sort of as co-starters at running back. That's McReynolds and Bullock. The coaches talk a lot about Bullock today. I think they expect to see a good amount of him. And then their top receiver back is Jamal Pritchett, who's listed at 5'8", 175, kind of described as a, speedy guy. Obviously at that size, you got to be fast to be making an impact at that size at this level. So, that'll be interesting. We've definitely seen those kind of receivers burn us in the past. Those just little guys who you can't tackle.
Oh yeah,
that'll be a good test for the secondary to make sure that they keep that guy corralled. And then quarterback Gio Lopez. He's a redshirt freshman. He's an in-state kid. He's from the north side of Alabama. He played a good amount last year while still preserving a red shirt. It feels like he's kind of, their guy. Like there wasn't, I think he even missed like a chunk of fall. There wasn't really much of, if any, competition. It was kind of, he was kind of their guy from day one as a redshirt freshman going into this fall camp. So he'll be an interesting guy. Definitely a running threat. Last year, he ran for 154 yards on 18 carries. So pretty dynamic in a small sample size. Threw for 475 yards, 4 touchdowns, 2 picks. So again, preserving his red shirt while still getting some experience. I think that's, so he's not coming out there with no experience. He's coming out with about as much as you can get while preserving your red shirt. So that'll be a good test. I think the defense talked about his size, 6 foot 220, that he's a guy who they might expect to see some kind of quarterback power stuff, not just
he's a lefty too.
Okay, I didn't even know that. So yeah, lefty. That can throw a wrinkle dynamic as well. But I think it'll be a good test. I think it's a test that you're not going out and playing a loaded offense on paper that has just all these returners, and you're not playing this like these UTSA rosters that we've seen the last few years where you got, or SMU where you got all these 1,000-yard guys and 3,000, 4,000-yard quarterbacks. It's a more realistic first test, but while still kind of presenting a good challenge. So I'm looking forward to seeing that matchup.
Yeah.
Anything else? What are any other thoughts regarding kind of this matchup or what you're looking for?
Well, as far as Lopez goes, I mean, like I said, he's a lefty. You kind of talked about, he's very shifty. The game he got the most action in last year was their bowl game against Eastern Michigan, which he played well in, and I think he is definitely one of those quarterbacks that could pose a problem that we've had Similar problems in recent years with containing dual threat guys. Kind of basically how you beat players like that in teams that utilize players like him is you have to kind of pick your poison, and we have not been able to pick any poison the last couple of years. It's just been, or I guess it's been all poison and no medicine, to put it aptly. I go back to like Malik Willis when he played for Liberty. It was just like one of those games where like those are the types of quarterback when they're able to get loose out of the pocket. I have not seen our defense. I've only been a fan for 7-8 years, but I have yet to see a defense that can really step up and shut guys down. Maybe like the 2017-18 teams with like Ladarius Hamilton up front had some sort of, physicality, but this just seems to be a constant struggle. So the insecure part of me feels like, even though the sample size is small, this guy seems like a quarterback that could just torch us on Saturday. Maybe not. His sample size is very small, and he hasn't done a ton with the playing time he's had. He has looked, solid enough. Like you said, he threw for 500 yards in a couple games last year, a couple touchdowns, but again, nothing crazy. So I'm trying to remain positive. I'm trying to think like, okay, we brought in some guys, we changed some stuff schematically. South Alabama didn't have like a torrid offense last year, so I think they're more of a defensive minded team just in terms of overall game planning. I mean, their coach from last year went to go be the new DC at Alabama. So that tells you, kind of the talent they are able to coach and get implemented at South Alabama. So they're returning, I think, 7 starters on that defense. And that's a coach that was good enough to go coach in the SEC. So it's going to be tough. I think it's a good test. You use that phrase. I think it's a great test, a good litmus test of where this team will be early on. Absolutely. Because we didn't really do like a game by game run through. I mean, we did sort of, but not like a deep in-depth preview of every opponent. We'll do pods for every team, but especially since 3 of your first 4 games after this are Stephen F. Austin, Tech, and Wyoming, I think like if we start 3-1 and our defense looks fine and our offense is the same as last year, that's like the ideal situation. I don't think anybody would complain with 3-1. So even if we do lose this game, I think fans can just be happy with improvements. Even if we lose on Saturday, I think there are 6 wins still on the table. I don't think the season is over if we lose week 1. Obviously I want to win, but I think that this is a great opponent that has skill on both sides of the ball. You talked about Pritchett too. Pritchett is like, that dude's a demon. He's one of those like 170-pound, just fast as hell receivers. And again, if Lopez and him connect, that could be a duo that's going to be tough to stop all day. So I'm really just concerned with seeing the defense play marginally better than it did last year. There were not many games outside of like Navy and I guess Tulsa where the defense played well enough to keep us in it and give us a chance to win from start of the game to the end of the game. I'm probably forgetting a couple, but point is that just the defense has got to improve, and it's been beaten to death over the course of the offseason. But if we can, get a couple big stops, get off the field on a couple third downs, hold them to 30-ish points, I like our chances. But like I said, I mean, this is a litmus test of where this team's going to be. Thankfully, we get Stephen F. Austin afterwards, and it'll be a good chance to clean up some stuff. So I'm far less concerned about the win-loss as much as I am. I just want to see tangible signs of improvement. So that's where my head's at for this game. But do you want like a prediction right now, or do you want to like save that for a little bit?
Yeah, go ahead and give me your prediction, and then I'm gonna throw one more at you after you give me that.
Okay. I think I will go with my gut and say we win this ball game 41-30. I think that the offense has enough retained power to not really lose a step. Again, another thing that we've talked about all offseason, Chandler Morris is one of the most talented athletes we've ever had come in and play quarterback. if he plays as expected, and he's going to be one of the best talents on the field on Saturday, could be a great day for us. That's best case scenario. So I'm going to ride with the offense and say offense does their job. I'm going to give the defense my benefit of the doubt as a fan. Anyone who has listened to me for a while knows I'm kind of too much of an optimist when it comes to this school, but I'll ride with a 41-30 road win.
Yeah, no, I'm a homer too, so I struggle with that at times. But let me ask you. I'm gonna throw one of these at you. You can throw one at me next week. I'm gonna give you an over under. Not even from a betting standpoint, just like a performance. So I've got us at. I'm putting the over under at 1.5 turnovers forced by our defense.
Oh,
because to me, I think if we can force 2 turnovers, I think we win. If we force less than 2, it's going to be tough.
Wouldn't it be the most UNT thing ever to force like 3 turnovers and lose?
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna play it safe. I'm gonna go under. I think we win, but I don't think we create 2 turnovers.
Yeah.
Again, I got to see guys like wrap up and make tackles. I got to see guys not getting beat on deep routes. Like, it's just last year was a total mess on defense, and I think that that'd be awesome if we can create 2 or 3 turnovers in game 1. That's a great sign. Even if we lose and create 3 turnovers, I'll be like, you know what? I'm happy going into SFA. That's a sign of progress. But I gotta be semi. I think going with the win was too optimistic enough. So I'll say I'll say 1. I'll say they get 1 big pick to ice the game with like 2 minutes left.
Oh,
that's my call.
That would feel tremendous. Yeah, no, I think the reason why I kind of put that one on you is turnovers and negative yardage plays. I talked about this last time, but that's really what I'm looking for more out of this defense this year. Because look, I don't think a 3-3-5, it's not designed to, overpower an offensive line and rack up a bunch of tackles for loss, or a bunch of 1 yard, 2 yard runs. It's just not designed to be that kind of load the box, keep everything in a phone booth kind of defense. It's just not. That's not why we run it. We run it to kind of, again, to muddy up the passing lanes, to kind of keep teams' offenses out of their comfort zones and keep their receivers and their quarterbacks guessing a little bit.
Sure.
And that to me is where we need to see some picks. We need to see some, again, just a sack here and there, a coverage sack. Put a team in 2nd and 18. You give yourself a huge chance when you can do that kind of stuff. Where it felt like last year we did, I think we did rack up more interceptions than we had in the previous 2 Luttrell seasons, but we did struggle, I think, with creating negative plays. There weren't a ton, and then it felt like even when they were kind of negated by easy 15-yard dunk passes. So again, this is where I really want to see some improvement with the defense of, can you make some big negative plays? Ethan Wislowski was a guy who had 7.5 tackles for loss last year as a freshman, which was really promising to see. Can he make some of those big plays? Again, we're going to give up yards in this defense. It's kind of a bend but don't break situation. If you can force the other team into 3rd downs, I actually like this defense in these kind of 3rd down situations when it's 3rd and 5, 3rd and 7, when it's kind of that intermediate range where it's a passing down. I like the way our defense, I think that's where our defense has the best chance. But it's these 1st and 10s, man. That's where it really felt like the defense was just struggling. Is 1st and 10, give up a 8-yard run, and then the offense, you hear any coach say it. When you have 1st and 10, when you have 2nd and short, the playbook is huge. When you have 3rd and 18, the playbook is tiny. There's only so many plays you can run on 3rd and 18. So yeah, again, if they can just have these timely, a sack or a 3-yard tackle for loss, so running back trying to bounce it outside, and you've got your safeties there to clean them up. if you can force more of those than you've done last year, while maybe kind of giving up a similar yards per, hopefully not similar, but a similar-ish yards per play, but you're mixing in more negative plays there, and then you're putting the offense in situations where it's an obvious passing down, and your defense can thrive a little bit more, and maybe get an opportune pick here or there. I think that's what I want to see more of this defense is these, show us the ability to rack up a negative play with more frequency.
Sure.
And then including obviously turnovers, which is the question.
Sure.
Yeah.
I had one more point I want to make too. 4 of their offensive linemen are returning starters, and they have size. They have a ton of size. I think 3 or 4 of their starting offensive linemen are over 300.
Yeah, I'm looking. It looks like they all are. All 5.
Yeah, they're big. And then they got a new starter at center who's a Purdue transfer. Same thing, 6'2", 312. So that's going to be a big key. Like you've been talking about, like kind of those like just giving up like big first down runs. We're going to have to get past that offensive line and create some pressure. Now, if we don't, because of I already forgot his name, Joe Lopez. Because I've only watched a little bit of tape from that bowl game. It does look like he's kind of quick on his feet and kind of able to make some like quick decisions. If we're not able to get past those linemen, then we're going to have to, again, this is kind of like what I just said, like pick your poison. We're going to have to play better zone. If we give a little bit of a cushion on defense, that's fine. But, if we're not pinching and, rushing 7 guys at this quarterback because we just can't get past, they might just outsize us on the line, and that's fine. It's just, it's going to be kind of one of those things where we've got to scheme it the way we scheme it and take it opponent by opponent. And this might just be a game where we have to, figure something out defensively that maybe we don't get to establish ourselves right off the bat. Cause this is a formidable offensive line. And really they're just replacing skill players. So that's going to be I think one of the big keys of this game is are we able to maybe wear those guys down a little bit? I know a couple of them don't have a ton of starting experience. So, we'll see. We'll see how our that's kind of a big proponent of, or a key component of this game is what I meant to say, is how the defensive line will fare against their O line. So,
yep, I think I'm going to go 38-34 North Texas win. I think we're going to hold them to a field goal in the red zone. I think that might be the difference where, we can kind of get this secondary, because I thought our secondary at times, especially towards the end of the season, looked like they knew what they were doing or where they needed to be, and they were in position.
Sure.
I think back to another agonizing moment, that the Michael Pratt touchdown run against Tulane. We had him like 3rd and 14, had good coverage, and then he just runs, and there's no one to account for him.
Yep.
I think I think we're going to see pretty good coverage in these kind of situations where the field condenses a little bit, and we're able to kind of force them to field goals. And then offensively, I think we're going to be able to move the ball on them. I think Chandler Morris, I think he's going to have a good game. I think that in particular where I think he's going to have a good game is the middle of the field. I think that's, to me, the area where, just kind of looking at their roster, it feels like they have more of those kind of big linebacker, like more of the kind of linebackers that we're used to seeing traditionally, where they're 230, 232, 234. I'm interested to see how those guys do trying to cover Oscar Hammond, or trying to cover Landon Sides or DT Sheffield, those slot receivers. I think that's really where we're going to be able to make some plays, is Chandler Morris getting the ball to these guys in space, kind of in that middle section of the field. And then, every once in a while hit them up top on the outsides with, guys like Ward and Conwright. So I think that's where we're going to make our money this week, is kind of that middle of the field receiving threats. With, Morris hitting, guys like Hammond and Sides. But I think that's going to be, as well as establishing the run game, I think that's where our offense is going to kind of establish the tone early on. But sure. It won't be easy. I don't think. I think it's going to be a fun one. I think it's going to be, good opening week. fair fight, not two teams that are just going to be over, but the game's going to be over by halftime. So I'm excited.
Yeah, I think it'll be a good game. Like you just said, Chandler Morris, a lot of this season, not just this game, but a lot of this season just hinges on him. Like I said, he's the best player on the field Saturday. I don't think that's an outrageous claim. He's in terms of talent and in terms of what he's capable of doing on a football field, he's the best player out there on Saturday. So
I would even say in terms of resume at the college, at the Division I level, I don't think that, there's no 3,000-yard passer on the other side of the field. I think he's arguably the most established player just in terms of production out there.
Sure.
So
yeah. So I mean, a lot of this, like you said, just if we can establish some passing game early, kind of wear down their DBs and establish a box over the middle of the field where we can just find some of our. Again, we talked about this in the preview pod. A lot of our we don't have 6'3", 220 receivers. We have speedy guys who run good posts, run good slants. Like that's absolutely how we're going to establish some offensive momentum here. Obviously Jamori Macklin wasn't that size, but I don't think we have a deep threat in kind of his world.
Right.
Like he was our deep threat last year for sure. So we'll have to see some guys step up. Not that we lost a deep passing game, but just definitely we're gonna have to see some of that production replaced. But yeah, I think that this game is going to go very well for both sides. I think it's going to be a good game. I don't think anybody should expect a blowout, but if we win by 20 plus points, that's an indicator that things are going to go pretty well this year, hopefully. So, yeah, I'm excited. I mean, it's going to be a good game. I'm pumped. I'm pumped that game one is not like an FCS game or us at Tech, right. Which I still think we have a shot of winning that game. We'll have a better idea in 2 weeks, but I'm glad that we get week one like a good game. It's just going to be a good football game. Hopefully.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Well, yeah, get out to your local establishments. There's a few alumni kind of watch parties and whatnot in the area, and East Side, one in Frisco. So ESPN Plus, as always, you can count on a broadcast that will show the game. You're not gonna have to squint. You're gonna have a clear picture and maybe some super homer play-by-play guys, but that's all right.
So some frequent audio problems.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Well, thanks for listening, and go Mean Green.
Go Mean Green.